All right, guys, good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Gar Capital. It is Wednesday, February 21, 2024. Glad to be with you this morning, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here on the YouTube channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to comment any of your questions and hit that subscribe channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. That starts with you clicking that button. Really appreciate it. Comment any of your questions here in our live market chat at this very moment here on YouTube. We are live, ready to go. Let's get to it. Okay, here we go. Dow futures down about 80 points, Nasdaq down about 107, S&P down about 0.28%, the Russell's down as well. 10-year treasury yields, the dollar and yields, interest rates are falling, yet stocks were falling too. We were red yesterday. The dollar is down 0.03%. The VIX 1607 up 4.22%. Crude oil is slightly green, 77.14. Gold is flat, 20.40. Gasoline futures $2.29. Good morning, your 90 kg. I assume that's kilogram. Copper is up 0.65%. Silver is flat. In terms of Forex land, no real major change among the major pairs, euro, yen, Canadian dollar, and the pound. Rather flat across the board there. Bitcoin and crypto taking a step back, 51,165, down 1.78% for Bitcoin. Ethereum broke 3,000 and is now at 2,900, 2,908 to be exact, down 2.5%. And there we are with the market. So the big news today, as we know, is NVIDIA. NVIDIA will be reporting earnings after the bell. So let's go and start with that. We also got some headlines. Pre-market movers are scrolling at the bottom, so feel free to take a look at that at your own leisure during the video. Let's take a look at it. NVIDIA with the hockey save on the daily trend line here so far. It did close below 700. We are now at 682. Again, more of a pullback. Let's see if we get to 670. That's your 20-day moving average. That's our momentum indicator in terms of a daily chart. So if we break 670, we do have a gap to fill here at 631. Now, trading this is going to be expensive. Either way, calls or puts. So if you wanted some exposure, I think AMD is the way to do it. Now, again, I don't know the reaction of NVIDIA. One thing is predicting if they beat. I assume that they beat expectations. The idea is the guidance, which I have no idea, and of course, the reaction, which I have no idea. It's kind of hard to make a bet on what other people are going to do. You know, other people's behavior, not an easy endeavor. So with that being said, let's take a look at AMD. AMD, we do have a gap to fill here at 173.18. If we get any kind of a boost higher, that's our main target that we're looking for, at least the first marker. I have the 185 calls. It's a hard hold. We've been here before. Tesla last week, Google before. AMD, we traded back in May. That was the NVIDIA earnings as well. NVIDIA soared. We got AMD for 448%. So I have AMD calls, a little bit of a risk, obviously. But again, at least what we're seeing here, we're just seeing consolidation for the most part, really since January. I think AMD is going to break out. If it doesn't happen this week, obviously it should happen in the future. But I did talk about on the podcast as well about that pullback. And if NVIDIA pulls back, AMD is going to go with it. There's a gap to fill here at 149. For those who have asked me, hey, what's a good place? Would you go ahead and add some more shares? 140 would be a decent start. That'd be great. But 135, 130 sounds about right. I think that's where we can start adding a little more AMD, but not here. Not here. If it soars, so be it. You're already a shareholder for years. What difference does it make at this point? You're happy. But at the end of the day, I still think AMD has more to go. Again, a pullback this year is expected. We know that. I talked about that on the podcast. Make sure to take a look at Spotify, search GAR Capital. I talked about that. So yes, pullback's going to happen, but the bullish trend is still going to be the same. Most of this is just going to be a retest. That's all. So if AMD does retest, we're taking a look at 138, but 150 would be our first marker. That's the gap to fill on the daily back on January 16th. So again, if AMD does pull back, that's your target. If AMD does soar, 184.92 is the recent highs. That's what we're looking for to the break. So in terms of NVIDIA, we'll pivot that rather quickly. NVIDIA below 670, that's your 20-day. If that breaks, 631 is that gap fill. Very similar to what AMD has. So that would be our first marker. What's the level we're looking for to add some NVIDIA? If we get there, 500, 505. Previous resistance becomes support. It would be a giant retest if we got there. I want to say that caveat, if But again, that's what I'm looking for. All right, team. And if it soars NVIDIA, well, just be happy. If that's the case, we're just going to see what happens. Let's take a look at Boeing puts. Josh is asking. I do have a gap to fill here at 197.91. That would be the target. What we're looking for a break would probably be the week's lows of around 201.97. So if we break that, we'll keep an eye on the 195s for a possible pullback. Let's see. Palantir puts. Oh. Palantir puts the level I'm looking for. We do have a gap to fill here at 2440. 2245 is where we are now. 2118 would be your first level of support. That's that wick high. But main support would be around 1977 to 2044. That's the zone that we're looking for. That's that 1, 2, the triple top breakout. Now, if we come back down here, might be a good place to buy some shares, or you can just wait for the retest and wait for the bounce, which I fully expect. If not, we got a gap to fill here at 1787. So, and we also have another one here at 1501. So a lot of moving pieces on Palantir. If we break the previous resistance, then it gets interesting. But as of right now, it seems that the Palo Alto news is really affecting Palantir, which is it should, because it's the same sector. Is coin to 200 still valid? Coin, where are we now? 166? Yeah, I had that for masterclass at the moment. So it got hit with crypto. At this moment, we do have the Fed meeting minutes on today at 2 p.m. That could affect crypto. But as of right now, you could see where we are pre-market, 165.98. Really, I'm just trying to see if we can hold 160. Things can be volatile, but it's not looking great. Can't sit here and say it's fine, because it isn't. We did get that break of that previous resistance with that earnings report, and they just pulled back. And Bitcoin pulling back isn't the best. I thought Ethereum going to 3,000 could have been that little bit of ignition there, but not at the moment. So we're going to keep an eye on Coinbase. And at this point, the trend is still higher. We're just going to run out of time. We do have a gap to fill here at 170, 166. So that's my expectation today that we'll get there. AMD again. Yep, AMD. I do have calls. Tough hold, as we know. Been there before. We're basically at the same levels that we were back in beginning of February. So right near the month's lows. It's really just big chops since the 15th of January between 180 and 160. And we've just been ping-ponging ever since. We broke out of this wedge, double topped it, triple topped it, maybe quad topped it. But you can see the ascending triangle setup. The setup was there for more upside, but we just pulled back. And that's all. So I'm going to stick with the analysis. I still say that AMD goes higher. We do need NVIDIA to really soar if that's the case. We were here before. So we'll get it. We'll see where we get in terms of the day. If we get a pop maybe to 172, who knows? Who knows what happens today? We get that volume rush into AMD calls or NVIDIA calls. Semiconductors are going to move higher. And then with that move, we can start making decisions before the earnings if we want to salvage some premium or we just let that ride. And the way you see it when it comes to options, guys, is that you got to understand when it comes to options trading, your risk is limited to what you're risking, what your contract size is. You can't lose more than that. If you say, hey, $200 is the contract size, that is the max I'm willing to lose. It's different with futures. It's different with Forex. Options is this way. So any trade that you're in, always have that number in mind and say, if I'm risking this, there's a possibility of this losing, because that's just the way the market goes. It doesn't care how much technical analysis you do. It doesn't matter how good of a trader you were in the past. I always say the same. You're only as good as your last trade anyways. So kind of think of it that way. You're going to have to give yourself a price where you feel comfortable holding. That's it. Because if you guys want bags and 100%, 200, 300% returns, well, then you have to hold. Now, if you're someone that just wants to scalp, a different story. But for what we do, we're trying to maximize the highest probability setups. You're going to have to hold. That's the deal. So if anything, tweak your position sizes accordingly. You shouldn't be losing sleep by any position. But that's just the reality of it. Apple, we did hit Apple puts yesterday. We had the 180s. We talked about that yesterday. And they actually hit in the money and we bounced. So got 40% on it. Got a runner on it. We'll see. I still think we get more downside on Apple here. Apple, I'm looking for 175, but if we can break 179.14, I'm taking a look at the 175 puts. I think Apple still has a little more room to go down. Tesla, we did the same thing. That hit a bag. We had Tesla puts. That was well done. It did bounce off the 20. Not my favorite thing to see if I'm trying to short, but doesn't matter. We caught it. If we're looking for next leg down, right around the 180 level, if you guys remember, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and we hit that. We didn't get the gap fill as of yet on the daily, 206.68. So we're going to get a chance to really have fun with Tesla, because if it pulls back, we're going to get a chance to play puts. If it bounces, we got gap fills. We could play calls. So Tesla's basically going to be a permanent member of the watch list for the time being. Let's see, JPM. JPM hit an all-time high, I believe, yesterday. It's setting up for more upside. You're getting some consolidation here. Kind of tough to play all-time highs or any other contract. Really, what you're looking for is more upside in terms of the banks. So, for example, I have some city calls for September. JPM going higher is definitely going to make me happy, because the banks, for the most part, run together. We bounce off some support of 52. Looks like 56 is coming. We break that. It's a good night for Citibank as we go higher. Same with BAC. That's another stock that I've been watching. I do have an alert set up for BAC for more upside on our watch list, 3508. So go JPM, because that's going to help BAC set up. And you could see we're just going to break resistance and get back to 37. So that's our main target on BAC. It's cheaper trade than JPM, obviously, due to the stock price. Citibank is good too. But good to see JPM, my favorite bank to invest in. That's for sure. All-time highs. Shout out Jamie Dimon. He's a great CEO. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Have a great rest of your morning. We will catch you guys tomorrow for the next morning note. We do have our NVIDIA earnings after the bell. If you want more information on that, make sure to join our live market blog. You get all the news as you see it. We're up early in the morning, making sure you have all the information you need for your trading day. So to join it, make sure to go to our website, www.gar.capital. Choose free plan, and you will get access on our Discord for our live market blog. We hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your morning. Cheers all.